Hi, today we're going to learn to tie a hand bow using 1.5 inch and 2.5 inch ribbon, wired ribbon. And no bow maker is required in order to hand tie your bow. But you do need a few materials. But before we get started, let me introduce myself. I'm Stephanie Brown, the designer and owner of Brown's Custom Creations, where I create custom designs with you in mind. Today, I do want to inspire and teach you how to make handmade bows from the comfort of your own home. So I'm going to lower my camera and we're going to get started with the tools that we would need for today's tutorial. First, you will need some type of wired ribbon. So I'm going to show you how to use 1.5 inch as well as 2.5 inch wired ribbon. The wire is on the side of the ribbon, of the fabric, okay, and it helps the fabric to bend and to stay in place where you want it. Also, you will need something to hold your ribbon pieces together. So I have 4 options on my table that you can use, and all of them are equally as good as the next. It just depends on your preference. So here we have a 22 gauge paddle wire, and it's on this paddle. All you do is you unwind how much wire you need, and usually I would say about 12 inches. You would cut your wire 12 inches in order to make a bow, or you could get pre-cut floral wire. It's basically the same thing as this paddle wire, except for it's already pre-cut for you and the length is perfect. So this floral wire comes in an 18-inch length. So that is plenty of wire to do your project. You could also use chenille stems. Just make sure that if you're using chenille stems with your ribbon that you get a color that will match, or you're able to cover up the chenille stems if they do not match. My preference is to use cable ties. So any of these products will work. So whatever you have at home, if you have one of these 4 projects, one of these 4 products, it will help keep your ribbon together, okay? And the other things that you will need or may need, you will need a pair of scissors, and you will need a pair of wire cutters, okay? So we're going to go ahead and set these things over to the side. I am going to show you how to use the 1.5 inch ribbon to make a beautiful bow. So we're just going to use this one ribbon in our first bow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a length of the ribbon, I'm going to drop my roll to the floor, so that gives you plenty of room to work with. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to make a ribbon tail. The tail of the ribbon is what hangs away or off of your project. So depending on the project that you're using, you may want a short ribbon tail, like maybe an 8 inch, or you may want a longer ribbon tail. So for today's project, I'm going to cut a longer ribbon tail. I'm going to make this ribbon tail 20 inches. So I'm measuring from the 5 to the 25 to make sure I'm in the frame. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch the ribbon up. Okay? Now, on this other end that's attached to the roll, I want to twist that ribbon. So now the unfinished side is facing up. The finished side is the part that you can see that has the design. The unfinished side is the one that you can vaguely see the sign, or maybe that you can vaguely see the pattern, or maybe you can't see the pattern at all. Now we're going to take the unfinished side, and if you're new, you may want to measure out your loops. So what we're going to do, we're going to make a 12-inch width here, or length here, and we're going to pinch that in. So I went from the 10 to the 22, and then we're going to fold that over. I pinched it, and now I folded that fabric, that ribbon, on top of itself. So that's going to be our first loop. Now what we want to do is we want to twist our fabric. So we have the unfinished side up again, and we're going to measure again. Same thing, 12 inches. We're pinching that in and bringing it up, and that makes our second loop. So now we have something that looks like little bunny ears, okay? So if I want to do more loops of the same size, I go ahead and twist and measure to the same measurements that I did before. Pinch, gather that in my hand. We're going to do the same thing, 22 to the 10, and we're taking, I forgot to twist, sorry about that. We're going to twist that. Don't forget to twist. I noticed it when I picked up my ribbon. Okay, but we're going to the 12 inches, and we're just positioning our loops as we go. Now, if you do not have a cutting board or something to measure with, another way that you can measure your loops is once you twist your ribbon, since we've already started our loops, all we have to do is measure with the loop right beside it, and you adjust however you need to. If you need to bring it in or out, you just adjust your ribbon. Okay, and then you pinch, twist, come to the 10, we're going to pinch it and bring it together. Alright, so this is going to be the bottom of our bow. So now I'm going to come in with some smaller loops and do the top of our bow. These are the bottom layer. So we're going to do the same thing. You're going to twist, and if you don't have a board that you can measure, you just bring your ribbon tails in just a little bit, like that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and measure for the ones that do have it, so you can know how I'm doing it. So I'm going to go 10 inches on this one. So our outer loops were at 12. The inner loops, the top of our bow, is going to be at 10, and you can see that they're shorter. You're going to twist. And for the ones of you that do not have a mat, when you get to the other side and you want to measure, let me show you what you can do. You bring your fabric in and you bring your tails up, and they shouldn't meet, and that's how you know that your loops are pretty even. Okay? And for the ones of you that are measuring, you go at your 10, bring it in, twist, and you can adjust your ribbons as you go. So when we get ready to tie it off, your ribbon already looks like a bow, or really close. We're almost done. We're going to twist. And I'm just gathering that. I didn't gather it on the board. I just gathered that in my hand. Putting these where I want it. And then we're going to do just a center loop. So for a center loop, I'm not going to measure. I'm just going to make a smaller loop in my hand. And if you wanted a bigger center loop, you could stretch it out further. I just want mine smaller. And I'm gathering that in my hand. And my tail is on this side. So I'm going to make sure my tail is going down like that. Let me switch hands here. So there are my tails. I'm going to go ahead and cut my ribbon off of the bolt. And remember, I said I like to use the cable ties. However, if you want to use the chenille stems or the wire, all you would do is place your wire or chenille stem in the middle. My preference is the cable tie because I know I can get my bow really tight. So what I'm doing is I'm putting that on. I'm still holding my bow, making sure the flat side of the cable tie is facing up toward me. That's the part that you put in your stem right there. I'm not fastening it all the way. I still have a little room right there. So I'm going to look and make sure that my bow is adjusted the way that I need it to be before I tie the cable ties down. If you need to adjust inside, this is a great time to do that as well. And now I'm going to tie that down a little bit tighter. And usually when I'm making a bow for a wreath, I would put another cable tie in here, but I think I'm going to tie this on something else. So I'm going to use a chenille stem. So hopefully you can see this because it's the same color. And I'm just pulling that in halfway. And then I'm going to go ahead and tighten up the cable tie as tight as I can get it. Now I'm going to use my little cutters here, my wire cutters, and cut that off. And I didn't adjust that one streamer, but that's okay. I think it'll be okay. And now we're going to fluff our bow. Now, if you get to this part and you're like, oh wow, my bow did not turn out the way that I think, it's probably just because you need to use the wires in the bow or in the ribbon and just maneuver your ribbon tails, your bow loops around. So get in there, really get in there and adjust your bow. You should, if it's moving on you, if the actual ribbons are shifting, you don't have your bow, whatever you secured your bow with, you don't have it snug enough. You need to tighten it up. So that's really why I love to use the cable wires, because once you tighten it down, these ribbons are not going anywhere. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and cut our tails. These are the ribbon tails. And remember, depending on your project, you may want your tails longer or shorter. What I did was I folded the ribbon together, and I'm giving it a little cut in a diagonally toward the wire. I'm going to do that to both ribbon tails. Just give it a little cut. Pick up my little pieces here. Alright, one other little part that we're going to do before we're done with this bow is we're going to cut off a length of ribbon that we just used. So we're going to cut off about 8 or 9 inches. No measuring for this part, and we're going to fold it. Fold it. So I kind of folded it in thirds so you couldn't see the wire that's going to be on the back. And you know, we have a little loop for the middle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open the loop up, and I'm going to make sure one of my ribbon tails is on one side, one of my ribbon tails are on the other side. I'm going to put this piece of fabric in, and we're going to tie it off in the back. So turn this over, make sure your chenille stem or cable tie or whatever you're using is where you need it to be. It doesn't need to be hemmed up. Alright, and we're just making a double knot. And you want it to be tight because you don't want it to come loose. And we're going to go ahead and cut any excess off that we just tied. Cut it as short as you can. You can even hit this little part with the glue gun just to make sure it won't come apart. But unless it's really, really thick ribbon or burlap, it shouldn't come apart. Okay, so now that we have our bow finished, I want to go ahead and put it on a project so you can just see. So I have a lantern swag here, maybe too tall. Let me raise this up a little bit. And I can put this on a lantern swag. On a lantern. I didn't make a swag. This is just the bow. And we're going to tie it on just so you can see how that looks. So that's how you can do a handmade bow. Okay, you can also use your ribbon tails and curl them up. So we're just going to curl them up. It's kind of hard to do this backwards because this is facing you. And do the same thing. You can use that wire. Start at the bottom and just curl that up. Curl, curl, curl. And then we want to just pull it through. So there you are. You have your first bow. So you can do that just that easily. Okay? So that's one bow. I wanted to show you the thinner 1.5 inch ribbon first, but it's the same process even with the 2.5 inch. Okay, so we'll do a 2.5 inch ribbon, and then I'll show you how to mix the two. So we'll set that aside. Okay, and then let me go ahead and lower you back down. Okay, same thing. We're going to just let this fall to the floor. And we're going to take off a good bit. Let that just roll around. And for this one, we're going to go ahead and do let's do a 15 inch. 15 inch, no, that's 20. A 20 inch streamer. Pinch. Once you get it pinched, twist. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make a 12-inch loop. So you have to measure out to, we're going to make a 6-inch loop, excuse me, but you have to measure your ribbon out to 12. Make sure you twist your ribbon. Once you put it in your hand, twist. And we're going to do this one a little bit different. So we're just going to make 2 on the bottom. Straighten up your ribbon if you need to. Straighten it up in the where you pleated it. Twist. Okay, so we're only doing 2 on the bottom. Make sure you straighten as you go. It just helps when you end your it. You can you can see your ribbon, your bow is already forming if you straighten it as you go. All right. So now we're going to make a 10-inch loop. And we're just doing, I did that again, and we're just doing 1 loop on top, on each side. Make sure you twist. I forgot to twist again. Alright, 10-inch loop. Twist. Make sure you twist. So that side is facing up. And there we go. So now we have 2 ribbon loops on the bottom and 1 ribbon loop on the top on each side. Okay. You can also measure your loops if you want to pull them to the center and just kind of measure. Kind of measuring each one and then the ones on the top. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to switch hands there so I can cut. Let me cut this off. Now for me, I wouldn't necessarily do just a 2.5-inch ribbon, you know, just by itself. Well, not a pattern one. Maybe a plain one I would. But usually not a pattern. I like to mix it up some. But I'm just really trying to show you how you can do this yourself. So on this bow, I've shown you how I like to do it with my cable tie, but I'm going to use a chenille stem so you'll know how to do it yourself. So you're going to put the chenille stem in the middle, And before I twist the chenille stem, I want to make sure that my bow loops are where I need it. The great thing about chenille stems or the wire is if you needed to adjust, it's easier just to, to take it off and to adjust. Okay, that looks pretty even. So I'm going to just twist this one at a time, and then I'm going to twist my ribbon. For me, when I do it, it just doesn't come out, even though I'm twisting tight. I think I just feel better with the cable tie, but that's just my preference. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and adjust the loops, open them up. So we have 2 on the bottom and 1 on the top on each side. And you go all the way to the center when you're opening up your ribbon, because those pleats, that's what help it the bow stand up and do what you want it to do. In the middle is where all that goodness is happening. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead. So that's our bow. We're gonna go ahead and trim off our tails, or trim them up. Put the ribbon in half, cut toward the wire, same thing, fold it in half and trim toward the wire. Now you have your second bow. Now you can go ahead and do the same thing. You can just use the wire on the side and curl those loops up. So you wouldn't necessarily want to curl them like we did before. You just use that wire and make it curl. Okay? You get twisted if you want it to. And you just use the wire and make it do whatever you want it to do. Kind of like when we were kids and we would use the scissors on the ribbon at Christmas time and or birthdays, and curl that taffeta ribbon. I forgot. I guess that's what it's called. I don't know. But yeah, that's what you do. I'm trying to make the curls on this side look like the other. Let's see if I put it down and work it this way. There we go. There we go. All right. So a couple of simple bows. I'm going to go ahead and put this on the other side of the lantern so you can see it. This is just for demonstration purposes. I would not have the 2 different ribbons on here. This is just for demonstration purposes. So there you go. There is another bow that we hand tied. There is, you don't have to have an expensive bow maker or go to a store to get a bow maker. You can do this with your hands. Okay? And one more option, if you wanted to use multiple ribbons, I'll show you that real quick and then we'll be off of here. So let's lower that down. We're going to use the same 2 ribbons. And we're going to start with our 2.5 inch. And this time I'm just going to make a small bow, a small ribbon tail. We're going to pinch, twist, make your loop, and of course you can measure, okay, twist, make a loop, Push that together. You can measure these to make sure that they're the same. And we're going to make one more on each side. So we want them to be about the same. These are probably 6-inch loops that I'm making right now. So if I were measuring, I would measure a length of 12 inches. You're going to twist. Did I already twist? Oh, I know what I did. I folded it up the wrong way. Okay, so here we go. Let's 6 inches. That's about the same. And I'm going to cut this off. Okay, so at this point, if I wanted this tail here, I would go ahead and keep it there. And if I wanted it down, I need to go ahead and move it down. It just kind of depends on your project and what look you're wanting it for. But I'm going to go ahead and put both of my loops going down. I can go ahead and check that my loops are similar. They may not be exact, but they're close enough. Now I'm going to take my thinner ribbon. It's already on the floor, and have a streamer, and you can measure it up against this one. That's too short, and I would want to be able to see the thicker streamer underneath, so I wouldn't want it exactly the same length. I would want it shorter. Twist this in your hand. And I want this loop shorter than the back loops so we can see. We want to be able to see all the goodness. Let's see here. Twist that. Make sure you get a good twist where you can see that the unfinished edge, the unfinished side. And I'm just pleating that up in my hand. Twist. And you can do as many or as few loops as you want. You make the how many loops you want in your bow. I'm just giving you an example. I'm going to twist it. One more on each side for this bow. We're still just using our loops on each side to measure. That's our guide. That's it, and we're going to cut off our tail. Okay. So I'm going to end this bow here, and I'm going to get my cable tie. And bring that up. Remember, the flat side faces the end that you're going to put in. Okay, before we tie it all the way down, let's make sure that our loops and our tails are in the position that we need it to be. So I'm just bringing this around. You're still holding onto your ribbon so you can, you know, kind of pull on it so you can position it where you want it to be or where you need it to be. And then, even though I'm doing this right now, we will have to go back and reposition one more time after we get it all finished. Okay, before I zip it all the way down, I need to get another zip tie. This is what I typically do when I'm making a wreath. I will get another zip tie and put it underneath before I zip it all the way down. Make sure that if you do that, that the flat side is facing up. And we're just pulling that tight. And we're going to clip this off, what we just pulled. Alright, so this is our last little part where we're going to have to refluff and cut and things like that. So we're going to do a V. That's called a dovetail. Some people call it chevron. Now you could just fold the tails in and not worry about cutting it if you like that look. We're going to put a little piece around the middle, and I think for this one I'm going to use this floral ribbon that's in the back. So we're going to cut a little piece of that so we can bring that back up to the front so it doesn't get lost in the back of our bow. And I'm going to cut this down the middle. We're going to fold this over and then fold that wire in a little bit. We're going to put it right down on top of the cable tie that was in the middle, or that is in the middle, and tie it off in the back. And we're going to double knot it. And get it as tight as you can. And once again, if you wanted to, you could hit it with just a little spot of glue on the back just to make sure that it's not going to come loose on you. But I don't think it's necessary, but you can do it. Alright, and then this is our last time for fluffing our bow out. And if you need to cut the tails shorter, like that's uneven, I don't mind them being uneven. It just depends on what I'm putting it on, putting the bows on. But if you needed to readjust, you could readjust the tails and cut them however you needed them. Remember, use the wire, make it work for you. And I'll cut this down just so I can look more uniform. All right. You can adjust those ribbons however you need them to lay. Give them some life. Remember to use your wire, make it work for you. And I think that's very pretty. So we've done 3 bows. Let me show you the other 2. Let me take them off of the lantern. All right. There's our plain bow, our plain 2.5-inch bow. I tied this one on too good. Let's see here. How did I tie it on? All right. And our 1.5. So we have our 1.5-inch bow. We have our 2.5-inch bow. And then we have our mixed bow, our 2.5 and our 1.5 together. So hopefully this tutorial was helpful for you if you're needing to learn how to hand tie a bow. Please leave a comment and let me know if this was helpful for you. I would greatly appreciate it. Also, if you're not following my YouTube page, go ahead and press that like button or that subscribe button and get notifications when I post new content. You can also leave me a comment to let me know what type of content you like. I make wreaths, lantern swags, garlands, teardrop swags, bows. You know, let me know what type of content you like, and I can see about working on that for you. I do appreciate you for stopping by my page, and I hope this taught you how to make hand-tied bows on your own, and I hope it inspires you to do something beautiful. Until next time, have a great day. Thank you for watching.